Parker Kingston, BYU football. One of the big splashes, big announcement. Hey, I'm coming back. I'll be on the roster next season. Super excited. And he has what to this point is a pretty identical story to Jake Retzlaff.
Yeah.
And I know a few of you are pushing back. It's different. What I'm saying is a little bit later, this time last year, you hear BYU star who is returning has been included in an investigation of rape. And that's woo, for that to happen twice, consecutive seasons. Football star Mitch Harper tweets, Parker Kingston no longer a student at Brigham Young University, no longer a member of the football team. According to a statement, the university administration, athletic administration, including Kalani Sitake, were only made aware of the investigation and allegations after Kingston's arrest on Wednesday, February 11th. He has a lawyer. He'll fight this. But there is, as we learned, there's just no way. This is my opinion. There's no way Parker Kingston plays basketball for football or basketball for BYU in 2026. And there's no way that Richie Saunders plays basketball for BYU the rest of this year. That's a 72 hours from heck. That's a 72 hours that really, really suck. I would say BYU basketball is probably not a contender anymore. And in the Big 12, for sure, if they really were, they were kind of that last edge of contenders as it is. Yeah. And for BYU football, this puts a lot of strain as your wide receiver one is your punt returner, wide receiver one, team leader, gone for some pretty bad accusations.
Yeah, not good at all. And like those, with Saunders and Kingston, it happens in this week, but it does kind of get added on to what happened last summer with Jake Retzlaff. And, talking from a football sense, because that's what we do, there was a lot of angst to that as BYU fans of here we're kind of left in the lurch. What are we going to do football wise? And you kind of have to go through half the season being like, are they actually good? Then they are good. Then they get snubbed. And then you get more of the off the field stuff, which is obviously way worse. And so it's felt like a weird situation, I would imagine, to be a BYU fan the last year or so. Plus you add in, how you're perceived by some of the other member institutions of your conference, the things that get chanted at you. This is not a good situation all the way around. And unfortunately, it happens far too often on far too many college campuses in this country. But certainly it is under a microscope when now you have two major accusations of this nature against BYU football players in the last, 8 months here?
Yeah. I mean, it's because it was June when the Retzlaff news came down the pipeline. So that's really not that long ago. I recall with that one, it sounded, which by the way, February 7th, Kingston revealed he was engaged during a BYU basketball game. So there are so many elements to this. And this case has been ongoing for, what we come to find out, close to a year or longer than a year. Like this happened well over a year ago. And BYU says
when you get a felony charge like that, as we've seen with other cases like this, like you've got a lot there, and it's a slow burn. Yeah. And
Retzlaff's
thing was civil, so
for BYU to say we didn't know about this, I think you can't get away with that if they're lying. We've learned that in, I think, the Baylor case. We figure out like you can come to the podium all day and say, I didn't know. Dave Bliss, I didn't know. We know if you knew. There's evidence there if you knew.
Yeah.
A digital footprint. And so for BYU Kalani, what I think we also need to realize, because there are people out there saying, oh, BYU they knew the whole time. They wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't suspend him. No, again, we learn in a lot of cases, it's pretty easy for the guy who's accused to hide this kind of stuff. And Jake Retzlaff tried to hide this for a long period of time. And then one day you're sitting by your phone and that's it. It all comes to light. And the initial reaction in either of these cases should be, and this is me giving again my opinion, you can disagree, thoughts for the victim, the alleged victim of, okay, the last thing you want to do, namely for those who are actually assaulted, is say, what an idiot. This is a fugazi of a this is an accusation that is false just to ruin a good man's career. Like, if we say that, we're going to encourage every rape victim for the rest of time to never say a word. And that should not be the case. It should go through due process, as Jake Retzlaff did. And guess what? Oh, I'm about to cook. Jake Retzlaff did not miss time for BYU football because he sexually assaulted a woman. No, he missed time because he had sex, because he broke the honor code. Right. So BYU did the due process there. They just said, hey, you can play for us. We're going to suspend you because you broke the honor code. So BYU handled it perfectly, and Retzlaff, by and large, did as well by saying, okay, I'm innocent of this. I'm going to go play football somewhere else. Everyone handled that well. Here with the Parker Kingston situation, this feels more daunting, whereas Retzlaff was offered an avenue to collect it all, figure it out, and come back when it was told that it was false. Kingston's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, and I do wonder, with how much BYU knew about it and whatever, I do wonder how they handle that in the wake of the Jake Retzlaff thing, because as more came out on that, it didn't turn out to be exactly what the initial headlines made it out to be, and so I'm wondering if they're like, man, like kind of here we go again, like how can we slow play this while still feeling like we're covering our bases, you know what I mean? Like without a PR nightmare, how can we kind of wait this thing out and see how it happens? And I know I was wondering, last week, the same way we were wondering with Retzlaff, when he was saying it was consensual, then that still breaks the honor code. And I wonder if BYU was like trying to figure out, hey, did anything happen at all here? Like, did anything of that nature happen at all? Because BYU has to handle it a little bit differently than anywhere else in the country. Of course, the accusations and the thing he got arrested for should be handled pretty much the same way at every school, and that is what happened here. You don't go to school here, you're not part of the team.
So one BYU fan tweeted, it's Chance the Gardener. And he says, just a friendly heads up for the record, I number myself among the many who will not be following the details of this case. And reason being, he says, it's over for me. He violated his commitment to the school and team, similar to or worse than Jake Retzlaff. This case doesn't warrant attention. The point being, we should tune this out. Don't shove the details at us. It's not going to help. It's done. The Retzlaff deal wasn't on. That was a saga. That was a series.
Yeah. This
is, if you're a BYU fan, I don't think the initial response should be, what, there's some miracle out there that he is exonerated of this instantly and gets to play next year. I think we got the idea last season. It's not how this is going to work. That this instead, you should spare yourself by saying, you know what? Goodbye, Parker King. Yeah, I hope the best for the victim. I hope the truth comes out. It typically doesn't, but I hope it does. And goodbye, Parker Kingston. Man, we learned too. I think we learned this with Stephon Diggs as an example. Plenty of NFL players, good athlete, great athlete. You can do pretty much whatever you want, and we're not going to care all that much. Where the issue is at BYU, that's not the case. At BYU, they have a different set of morals that they're subscribed to, and you cannot break that. And obviously Kingston did. 30 seconds to completely different scenario. It's hard to bring them both up together, but for BYU having a tough weekend, Richie Saunders is in the conversation of things that have gone wrong. For him, a torn ACL, done for the year, likely done at BYU. That sucks, man. Like that was the guy. He was not, AJ Dybantsa, obviously Rob Wright, but Richie Saunders was BYU.
But he was the third head of the monster. He was. And obviously captured the nation last year. Had John Heater going to the games, man. And
Tater tots, man.
That was unbelievable cultural crossover. Yeah, it stinks, man. That stinks. A guy who's been there a while. You don't often get that in college basketball these days. Bummer, man. Like that was a team that it's really kind of evaporated pretty quickly for this BYU basketball team. I'm still willing to think that this isn't like the end of what Kevin Young is going to do here in year one. I think he is going to get a lot of talented players to come and play there, but that's a hit. This was a chance to really kind of push your momentum in your program after a good NCAA tournament run last year, and it's probably not going to come to fruition now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep. Tater tots for everyone.
Congrats to Baylor for the tennis win, by the way.
Yeah. Big comeback.
Yep. Beat number 1 Wake Forest.
I think, by the way, if we're going to keep doing these on Mondays, at some point, since we do have college baseball starting up, we might need like the weirdest scores. We were talking about it off the air.
34-3. Mount St. Mary's, Missouri.
When was the last time Mizzou beat a football team 34-3?
Is that a scoregami?
Could be. Northwestern Rice. And that's not the craziest. I think it was like 17-4, but just the fact that those two teams are matching up.
I think the craziest.
And then Northwestern's kicking the crap out of them. Rice is falling on hard times. But anyway.
Craziest stat that I saw this weekend. There's a Baylor guy who had 3 grand slams, but in spite of that, had 12 RBI.
I thought that was crazy. Everyone's focusing on the 3 grand slams, but ESPN Intel had it out there that it was 12 RBI as well, which it instantly brings me back to this crazy stat I heard a few years ago. That reporter who asked Dave Roberts, I think it was going into the World Series, she talked about how like the Dodgers had 11 walk-off wins that year and they were all at Dodger Stadium. Like, what are the odds of that happening? You know what I mean?
Angels in the outfield played every game at home.
Only home games.
These are some of the weird stats people don't talk about enough. 12 RBI? I didn't think it was right at first. I had to go look.
You'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised.
Cameron Stewart.
Both those two things together. Whew.
At Real Cam Stewart. Locked on Baylor. This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.